The Sioux City Public Museum is showcasing new exhibits that will spotlight two major events that happened in Sioux City's history. Today in the studio, Matt Anderson from the Sioux City Public Museum joins us today to talk about the Leeds annexation and the Perry Creek flooding. And Matt, those were two very notable events in history with pictures and stories from that time now on display at the museum. Okay, so when visitors go to the museum and they approach this exhibit, what exactly are they going to be seeing?
Well, first of all, if we take the Perry Creek exhibit first, Perry Creek is probably the smallest stream that goes through Sioux City. There's also the Missouri River, the Floyd River, the Big Sioux River, all much larger streams. But Sioux City has had flood control problems with all of those rivers over the course of its history since being founded in 1854. And really, Perry Creek's the last one of them to be dealt with. In some ways, Perry Creek, aside from the Floyd River, was the most destructive in terms of floods. It flooded something like 20 times during the 20th century, causing several millions of dollars worth of damage over that time period. And so not only were Perry Creek floods kind of a continual problem for Sioux City, but then different efforts at flood control were just something that Sioux City dealt with over the course of the 20th century.
Oh, really? So what are people gaining from looking at the old photographs and viewing this exhibit?
Right. Well, I think, first of all, most people that live in Sioux City today really only remember the 1990 Perry Creek flood, which was one of the worst in Sioux City's history, because before that there hadn't been a Perry Creek flood since 1962. So there was almost a 30-year period where Perry Creek was stable, and so I think for a lot of people now, they think maybe that was an isolated event, and it really wasn't. Perry Creek was a continual flood problem going back to, I think, 1908 was the first major Perry Creek flood during the 20th century, and it caused tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. Really was difficult, particularly for poor people in Sioux City. Particularly in the early part of the 20th century, workers since factories tended to be located along rivers and streams during the late 19th, early 20th century, people lived close to where they worked. And so you had in the Perry Creek Valley and in the Floyd Valley in particular, you had tens of thousands of people that lived very close in the floodplain of both of those streams, and those people were continually beset by flood problems that would wipe out all of their belongings. A lot of times they didn't own much anyway, and then a Perry Creek flood would come along and literally destroy their house and everything in it, and so it was just really tough on people for a long time.
Really? Now, back in the 1940s and 1950s, how did it compare to like some of the floods, like the Floyd River and Missouri River floods?
Well, the Floyd River was by far Sioux City's worst flood control problem. First of all, it was the most deadly. None of the other, Perry Creek caused 2 deaths during the 20th century, whereas the Floyd River killed about 45 people. So a bigger problem, but whereas the Floyd River flooded about 60 times between 1890 and the 1950s, Perry Creek flooded about 20 times. By comparison, the Big Sioux River probably flooded less than 10 times, and the Missouri River really only had one major flood during the 20th century in 1952. So just to give you an idea of the frequency of floods, Perry Creek ranked right up behind the Floyd River. Now, the Floyd River being a much larger stream tended to cause more economic damage. And another part of that was a lot of Sioux City's industrial infrastructure, like the stockyards, the meatpacking industry, a lot of the railroad switch yards and things like that were in the Floyd River Valley. So when the Floyd would flood, that was tremendously hard on Sioux City's economy during the early to mid 20th century. Perry Creek, on the other hand, was an older industrial area, but by the 1900s, there wasn't as much heavy industry in the Perry Creek Valley. It was more of a residential area. and there were more commercial interests and retail stores around it. So in terms of economic impact, the Floyd River certainly was more destructive, but because Perry Creek did have a lot of people living next to it, it was significant. I would say it was the second most problematic issue in terms of floods in Sioux City history.
Oh, wow. So how long did it take for the Perry Creek to return to its normal banks?
Well, it was actually what makes Perry Creek and the Floyd River similar, and the reason that they were so problematic is that they had a tendency towards flash floods. For instance, a river like the Missouri River, being really one of the largest streams in the world, it wouldn't flood in a flash manner where you just have a wall of water come down stream. It was always a much more gradual type of flooding. So, for instance, when the Missouri River flooded in 1952, that was caused by, first of all, there was heavy snowfall that winter, and then there was a rapid spring thaw. And the Missouri River just kind of gradually built up and spread across its floodplain. And that was catastrophic, but it wasn't really deadly because people had time to move out of the way and maybe even get their possessions out of the way. Where in the case of the Floyd River and Perry Creek, generally what would happen when they would flood, there would be a heavy rainfall in the northern reaches of their watershed. In the Floyd River's case, that's up around Sheldon, Iowa, up in Sioux County. And in Perry Creek's case, it's up in central Plymouth County. And if those regions received heavy rainfall, a wall of water would build up, and then both the Floyd River and Perry Creek had a relatively small channel normally, and they just simply couldn't hold the amount of water that could come rushing down the stream, and so it would hit very quickly. Perry Creek floods and Floyd River floods would come as a surge, almost like a tidal wave or as a rip tide or something like that. That's how they struck, and that's why they were deadly, and that's why they were so destructive to people. People did not realize that either one of those streams were actually going to flood until the flood was literally on top of them. There was very little warning generally in both cases.
Okay. Yeah, let's hope this new Perry Creek project, let's hope it works out like it should,
Yeah, well, absolutely. It should. If you compare it to the Floyd River had a similar project, a similar rechannelization project in the early 1960s, and the Floyd River hasn't flooded since that project was completed in 1964. So that bodes well for the Perry Creek project, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, let's switch gears now and talk more about when Leeds was annexed into Sioux City. Now you have another exhibit at the museum on that. Could you talk more about the exhibit that's going to be featured at the museum?
Absolutely. Earlier this year, we did a pictorial history of Riverside, which is another suburb of Sioux City, and so we kind of decided when we did that, and people seemed to enjoy that, we decided we'd try to focus on a different area of town, and so Leeds was the next area, I guess, on our list, so to speak. Leeds, like Riverside, was founded in the late 1880s, actually in 1889. And just to give some background, the late 1880s, early 1890s are what we call Sioux City's boom years. Those were the years that Sioux City grew faster than at any other point in its history. For instance, Sioux City had about 19,000 people in 1885. In 1893, it had over 50,000 people. So a period of tremendous expansion. If you compare that, today we have around 83,000 people in Sioux City. So, Sioux City in many ways has been, within about 30,000 population since the 1890s. And Leeds was along with Riverside and Morningside and the north side, north of downtown Sioux City, were all suburbs that were developed during that period of expansion in Sioux City's history. Now, Leeds is unique among those areas in that it was actually established as an independent town in 1889. Which meant it had a charter from the state legislature and was going to be its own entity. But in 1890, Sioux City was expanding so fast that at the growth rates at the time, it was projected that Sioux City would have a population of 250,000 by 1900. And so it was decided in 1890 the city needed to expand its corporate limits to allow space for that number of people. And so in 1890, the city limits were expanded to almost 50 square miles, which is close to about the same size as San Francisco, California. Unfortunately, Sioux City didn't end up growing that large, but by expanding those borders clear north to Plymouth County, that took in Leeds, and Sioux City was able to do that because the people that lived in Leeds voted to become part of Sioux City. So Leeds was only an independent town for 1 year. In 1890, it became part of Sioux City and has been ever since.
Very interesting. Okay, let's talk about the Leeds Improvement and Land Company and how that was a big business part of Leeds.
Right. Normally you think of towns as having a specific founder. So for instance, Sioux City, when we think of its founding in 1854, we point to a guy named Dr. John K. Cook as the founder. In the 1890s, that really wasn't how cities or suburbs were developed. They were developed by development companies, and Leeds, an example of that is the Leeds Land and Improvement Company. And the two main movers in that company were Arthur S. Garretson, who was also a major developer in Morningside. He had a huge mansion where the Morningside Branch Library is today in Peters Park. And then the other major figure was William Gordon, who Gordon Drive is named after. And what they literally would do during this period of expansion, they were tremendously aggressive. They would buy the Leeds Land Improvement Company literally bought hundreds of acres of prairie land and just started grading streets and house lots. And without any prospect of people necessarily moving there. The idea was if you build it, people would come. They would come into the area. And the Leeds Land and Improvement Company had a very specific vision for Leeds. Leeds was supposed to be the industrial suburb of Sioux City. And so in that way, it was patterned after Leeds, England, a suburb of London. And it was supposed to be a center of heavy industry, and then workers would live nearby in working class neighborhoods. At the time, the idea was Morningside would be the upper class suburb, and then Leeds would be the working class suburb. And so, in addition to developing house lots, the Leeds Land and Improvement Company invested heavily in new industries. For instance, there was something called the Sioux City Engine and Iron Company that was literally it was humongous. It was located exactly where American popcorn is today, and they built steam engines was their main product. There was another company called the Daniel Paris Stove Works, and again another huge industry that produced stoves, coal stoves, wood-burning stoves, and for a while was considered to be one of the largest in the world. And then there were a number of smaller industries like the Leeds Brick Works, the Sioux City Robe and Tanning Company, just a number of other businesses that developed during that time period. And so Leeds kind of flashed on the scene. Within a couple of years, it had several hundred residents and had these huge industries, and it happened really that quickly. It was because the Leeds Land and Improvement Company made that way. The company brought in an investment from the eastern United States, and they used that to build up these industries and this housing development.
Okay. Well, Matt, thanks for being with us today, and be sure to check out those two exhibits at the Sioux City Public Museum. That's our show today for Focus on the Community. I'm Tony Elridge.